Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic indie creator interview. It's your Cape Crusader Cody, and we're keeping it geekly with our new guest, Ben Kahn. We're here to break down Gryffen issue 1 through 3 and everything in between. One hell of a catalog. Ben, thank you so much for swinging by. How are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yes. We were
I'm
having
so
some
excited to be here.
awesome Venom conversation earlier. Everyone who was watching this live, you guys are in a treat. If you guys are watching this in post-production, start coming to the live shows. You guys miss out on a lot of good chat. So, Ben, you have done a huge amount of work. Heavenly Blues, Immortals, Phoenix Rising, Renegade Rule, Volume 1. We're here to talk about Gryffen issues 1 through 3, and then you have an awesome prose novel coming out, Ellie Campbell Wins Their Weekend. Holy crap, this is one hell of a catalog. I read a big chunk of it. Our first introduction, I think, was Immortals Phoenix Rising, and I was so blown away by your ability as a writer to take on that project without playing the game. And I remember we were talking, on Twitter about it, and I was just so blown away by how it went hand in hand. It's like you nailed it without even knowing how you were going to nail it. Like, it was awesome.
Well, what I had was... And this is weird because this was my first ever work for hire work, first time on a franchise. So I'm like, people are trusting me with their characters. I gotta go all out. So I didn't play the game. The game didn't exist yet. Mm-hmm. So what did exist was 600 pages of video game script that I just tore through in about 5 days, to read, to have it all. I'm every menu. So to try to have the voice down in my head as best I could and understand the characters, mm-hmm. which, again, my best attempts to have the characters' voices in my head. I wrote the whole script, and then the first trailer for the game came out, and I had the unique reaction of oh, they just went with full-on Greek accents. Did not know that was where we were. Oh boy, I hope that checks out with how I wrote it.
How did it feel, though, when you saw that first trailer and seeing those characters get voices?
It was awesome. I mean, as much as it is just to see any really cool game trailer, it was like, damn, Helly Phoenix! Damn, that's my girl! Phoenix! You're awesome! I know what happens to you even after this game.
And that was the best part, was a continuation of the story. And there was some DLC. I didn't get a chance to play the DLC. When I read the book, I went to go play the game again, and it was the DLC, for whatever reason, locked me out of my gameplay. You have to start a brand new game to play it, or something along those lines. I'm not sure what it was, but I remember just being in awe, with just the personality you gave Phoenix. I felt like you did the character such justice. It's I had such a hard time believing you didn't play the game, until after you wrote the script. It blew my mind.
That is the highest compliment you can give. Thank you. That was the highest goal, was make this as seamless an experience as I can from fans of the game looking to get more of the characters in the world.
So, I mean, was that a challenge? I know you said you read through the scripts. Hold on 1 second.
It was a joy.
1 second. Okay, sorry. My restream, for whatever reason, said we were offline, but we are still online on Twitter. So I just wanted to make sure we weren't having a lost connection issue there. Sorry about that. Technology, right? You pay so much money for this stuff to run smoothly, and it's you guys are having a good conversation, let me interrupt it. So you said after going through 600 pages, holy crap, did you have any sort of idea of what these characters would look like as well?
Yeah, so I did have the character designs.
Okay.
So I had all of the art Bible and design. So I had all of that going in. But it was really fun, coming up, okay, we're gonna do Argus Panoptes, hey, that was all tied to the peacock creation myth, so let's give it more of a bird giant vibe, with more of a beak and claw and talons. So that was very fun, getting to add that monster to the kind of canon. But no, I mean, I was a total Greek mythology kid. I was, I had the big picture book of giant of all the Greek mythology myths that so I ate all that up.
Oh, this was in Greek your ballpark.
Mythology. Oh yeah. Oh, I know it's public domain, so I could have written Greek mythology anytime, but getting to do it here, it kind of felt like getting to go into one of getting to write a Star Trek or a Star Wars or Transformers, just being like, oh wow, this is one of my favorite franchises as a kid. Hell yes, fucking Zeus.
So, I mean, like, did they have any sort of outline for you at all, or any sort of like direction, or were they pretty much like, hey, like, here's the game script, go ahead and, you know, create a story afterwards?
No, it was definitely a hand-in-hand thing. Like, it was a really, like, a great meeting, you know, with the narrative leads on the project. And again, like, and I definitely went into it not knowing if I kind of went into it open to whatever they were feeling. Like, oh, is this going to be a side story? Is this going to be like a retelling of the game? So that it was. It came from the Ubisoft side that this was going to be a follow-up to the ending and kind of a continuation. And from there, we really worked hand in hand and just kind of crafting the outline of the story that, you know, it would involve a big team up with Zeus and establish Phoenix's mother, Thetis, as the water nymph, and you know, their big team up adventure and their ultimate conflict. So that really all kind of came hand in hand, and then they really, you know, kind of set me loose to put it all together and tell the story, and it was just so much fun. I mean, this version of Zeus is just such a delightfully shitty person.
I know, right?
Which I kind of feel like my entire life has just been building up to write Zeus. Like that, like, can you make an asshole fun? I'm like, yes.
And that's how Zeus is in almost every media that you see him in, right?
Well, I really like this version of Zeus, especially where we leave him after the ending, where he's actively trying to be good, which is definitely an interesting place for him, but also he starts from such a shitty place that anything less than the shittiest thing he could possibly do is progress that he's then just way too proud of having made. And it was just a really like fun like place to write the character, and it really did play into ultimately the theme of the story, which I think is about how change and self-improvement is possible, but it's not linear and it requires hard work.
I love it. I loved it. And I remember walking away. I'm happy that it was a continuation of the story as well. I mean, I'm sure you would have killed a retelling of the game, but to have the chance to kind of give Phoenix a little more fleshed out of a story, a home life, her parents, I really loved just all of that. Even seeing her brother come back too, you know, it felt so good to whip his ass in the game, right? Like,
oh yeah,
that is awesome. Go ahead.
It was nice getting to even sneak in a Moby Dick joke in there.
Yes.
With his retelling, having lots of whale facts.
So Ben, I mean, we kind of talked a little bit about Immortals Phoenix Rising ahead of the game. Let's back it up a little bit. Where did this all begin for you? Like, where did you first start your journey as a writer?
So I started way back just being a teenager, fucking around in Microsoft Paint, making 4-panel sprite comics. Exactly as edgelord as you would think a teenager's sprite comic would be in 2005, raised on a steady diet of fucking South Park and Chappelle Show and Drawn Together. So yeah, extremely 2000s shithead teenager edgelord humor. The kind of thing I started and figured I would just kind of grow bored of or not have the commitment for, and I would stop before I hit 50 strips. I made 700 over the course of 7 years.
Wow. Was it like just... Did it have like one main focus, or was it all like different stories?
One just rotate, same cast of characters going through a variety of like dumb, like crazy storylines. 700
is impressive though. Oh my goodness.
Yes. Oh yeah, no, there was one where like a character ran for governor. I got like a solid year and a half out of just 2 characters getting married and the lead up to that. But, and again, I do think it was good practice because, again, I had stolen video game sprites and Microsoft Paint. This was like like the 90% of the strips were two characters against a background, no faces, very slight static pose changes. And the only thing that was actually original was the dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And just having to sell everything in dialogue for pretty much 7 years. So I do think it was some good practice for when I eventually got to make comics that had, art.
I would say your dialogue, we were talking backstage, your dialogue is phenomenal. So that makes sense on like how you got so good at it. 700 is remarkable. How often were you pumping those things out?
At my height, I was hitting like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule. And then college and partying and booze happened. So then it became like, we'll see about Monday. Let's see how we do about like floating Monday, Thursday-ish. We'll at least get 2 out a week.
That's not bad though. That's still very impressive. So where did this end up leading you? I mean, when you first started finding artists and people to put art to it instead of, video game sprites, what was your first book that you came out with?
It definitely started kind of when I got to college and there was a comic book store like a block off campus.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of just and that's where, I went from reading web comics with the occasional like Naruto to just discovering fucking like Sandman, like Neil Gaiman, Alan Moore, Grant Morrison, Garth Ennis, like fucking reading 52 and getting it, and Green Lantern and Morrison's Batman and Dark Reign, and just getting obsessed. So I just became like obsessed with comics, like really in college. And I'd already been doing it for years, but it just been kind of like, I just do this thing and cool, I accomplished the goal, I made it, and it's fun. And then it was really only years later I was like, you know what, fuck, I want to make comics, like real like this shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was specifically Sandman I was reading when I was like, man, I wonder if I could do something like this. And the answer to that is no, but I can make some really cool comics.
So what was was Immortals Phoenix Rising the first one, or did you have any other titles before?
The first one was a book called Shaman, which I did with a small publisher out of Philadelphia called Locust Moon. That was my first collaboration with Bruno Hidalgo, who is the artist on Gryffen. Gryffen is actually the third book we did together. The first one was Shaman. And all these books are available, Gryffen is available on massivepublishing.com store, and everything else I'm talking about you can find on my store at benconcomics.com.
Which we're dropping that massive link in chat right now, guys. So be sure to check that out. And if you're unable to buy anything, put this link in Facebook or Twitter. Word of mouth is 100% free. Sorry to interrupt.
No, hey, you're never interrupting for plugging. There's always time for marketing. So I just kind of got, became part of like the Philly comic scene, and they really helped me meet Bruno. And our first book together was Shaman, which was about a necromancer and his teenage sorceress daughter going on all sorts of kooky urban fantasy adventures, bringing back to life dead heroes, villains, and occasionally Babe Ruth.
Oh, that's so cool. I love it.
Yeah, so that was real fun. Like a real fun urban fantasy with the father-daughter bond at the heart of it. And that was just my first real stab at making a comic. We did a Kickstarter and got it out there in stores and conventions. And it was both the most difficult and rewarding thing I'd ever done in my entire life. So I just decided to keep doing it forever.
What was it like coming out with a script like that, as opposed to the the 4-panel dialogue? Like, was there a lot of like learning pains or growth that you had to do to kind of
So I wrote a bunch of like issue 1 scripts to stuff just to like figure it out, just to learn.
Okay.
Just to get in the sense, I do it in my notebook, and like I do the most crude like stick figure thumbnails, which I'm sure the artists I work with are very glad I no longer do. But just to start out, just to get that basic learning and trying to work in my head how a page might be broken down and separated and how many, and count panels. So I just wrote a few scripts just to kind of get those learning pains out of the way. So when I finally did have that idea that I felt strongly enough about, of like, oh, okay, I'm ready to spend the next 3-4 years of my life and thousands of dollars making this. This is what will be worth it. I could kind of approach it with a bit more confidence in the script writing phase.
What was it like working with an artist for the first time?
I mean, the first time seeing like words I'd written actually turned into actual art and like come to life and like actually come to life was the coolest thing that's ever happened. Like seeing those first pages in my inbox, holy shit. Like it's indescribable. Like actually see like characters that had, my whole life characters had existed in my head. And I'd pictured their adventures and played it all out in my brain, mental film reel. But to hear this gifted, incredible artist actually bringing those adventures, bringing those descriptions to life, to making it, to seeing it, to reading it, fucking indescribable.
That's so awesome. That is so awesome. I love it too, just the growth, like the 700 4-page panels to getting fully detailed art. I mean, in that journey, give you so much props for that, just like pounding out a couple issue 1 scripts just to get the ball rolling. That's such an awesome way to kind of dig in, and your work and your effort, I mean, it's paid off. The stories that you've came out with, the twist in them, the story building is remarkable. The dialogue is top notch. I mean, so what came next for you? Was it Renegade Rule, Volume 1 or Gryffen Issue 1?
Next was Heavenly Blues, with Scout. That was 6-issue miniseries. We did about from 2017, 2019, and then the trade came out literally fucking the day after New Year's 2020. I love that Heavenly, I do love that Heavenly Blues was by one day a 2020 release.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my next collaboration with Bruno, and that was just, hey, we had such a great time working together on Shaman, especially as, we both felt our relationship really developed over the course of working on Shaman. We really came out to, English not his native language. So we were adapting to that. And really we felt over the course of Shaman, hey, we've really figured out how to vibe together. Like my writing and your art are really clicking now. Like, and
how does that work though? Like Google Translate or like?
So again, English wasn't his native language. Again, he's from Spain. He lives in Barcelona. But he knows enough that, and he has people that know that was able to translate. And again, but it also very much impacted my writing style at the time, being my first time. So, you look at my early scripts, and to this day, that is a writing advice I'll give you. Like, if you know who your artist is, tailor the fuck out of your script to the artist. They are the only person who is really ever matters, who's going to be reading it.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how many comics you sell, the reader, unless they're not actually reading your script. The script itself only really needs to be written for an audience of one, and that's your artist. So writing for Bruno, there was no idioms, there was no flowery descriptions, there was no clever sentence structure or wordplay. There was just very clear matter to the fact. Like, this is what is happening. This is the possible camera, this is the possible camera angle. I always tell the artist, hey, anything I'm coming up with angle-wise or panel count-wise, these are suggestions.
Okay, yeah.
That's it. You know best. You tell the story you see best. But I always want to give a workable roadmap. So, here's what is happening in the panel. Here's the action. Here's people's expressions. Done. Just make it as simple to understand as possible for someone navigating a language barrier.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and I like that too. I mean, I think kind of letting Bruno take the wheel on, you know, his own style, like paid off. I mean, with the interiors we've seen in Gryffen, it's just next level. It was so awesome, and we're gonna dive into that a little bit more. But before we do, let's talk a little bit about Renegade Rule Volume 1. I had the chance to read Chapter 1. Phenomenal. You just keep coming out with just bombs left and right. This was such another phenomenal read. I love the twist in the beginning as well. You know, you see they're on the battlefield and then they're just wearing VR headsets. I was just like, what is this? I mean, give us a little bit about the creation of this story.
Oh yeah, so Renegade Rule is kind of my love letter to sports manga, sports movies. You know, from Mighty Ducks, Bring It On, Haikyuu, Ice Shield 21, so I love this a good sports story, but I also love lasers and explosions. I was also very excited to work with my co-writer on that, Rachel Silverstein. Rachel is just one of the funniest people I know. I wanted to work with her for a really long time. So we came up with a story. And at the time, she was really big into Overwatch. And so the idea of taking that kind of team shooter and just marrying it to just a straight up sports movie narrative was just really appealing. So, and we just had an absolute blast because the co-writing process for that was we did everything together, like over Zoom screen, like every panel, every line of dialogue was us bouncing back and forth. Like, so most of the dialogue most of the stuff that happens in the book is one of us just trying to make the other laugh and the other going like, oh my God, yeah, no, that's going in the script. That's going in the script.
I love that.
So, I mean, a big theme. So Renegade Rule is a really, if you haven't heard about it, it came out in 2021 for a graphic novel from Dark Horse. It was nominated for a GLAAD Award.
Congratulations.
So here for if you're looking for a good read for Pride, definitely check out Renegade Rule. And it is about four queer women friends who are all on a pro gaming team together, who have made it to the national championship of Renegade Rule, the biggest VR shooter around, as they fight their way through the tournament to make the finals where their future might be on the line.
Ooh. And it is just as gorgeous too. Who's the artist involved? I mean, these interiors were just mind-blowing.
The artist on that is Sam Beck.
Okay. Yeah, the interiors were just as gorgeous too. Holy crap.
Oh yeah. Sam is wonderful. And that was such a fun book, you know, getting to do kind of a Ninja Turtle, Sex and the City classic, like quartet, coming up with just the way they kind of scramble and make these desperate plans to get through the tournament was just a lot of fun. But pretty much really the book really just kind of ended up being our love letter to friendship, especially queer friendship, and really just video games. I mean, one of my big inspirations was, you know, just trying to capture that feeling of spending whole weekends just playing Halo with my friends in middle school and high school.
I remember when Halo 2 dropped, everybody who had an Xbox, I didn't because I was too poor at the time, but everyone who had an Xbox called in with H2 fever, and the school never put it together. It was Halo 2. They just thought it was some new sickness that was going around. I remember being so jealous because it was the first time you could dual wield weapons. It was so badass.
It was the coolest thing in the fucking world.
Yes,
it was amazing.
And like the Xboxes, orange Xboxes, like, oh my God, they're so gorgeous.
I pulled that shit with Kingdom Hearts 2. I had the Kingdom Hearts 2 flu. Kingdom Hearts flu.
Back when I was living with my mom,
memories.
I didn't get a whole lot of new games that dropped. I remember when I had played Fallout 3 for the first time. I didn't call off school, but I quit my job. I was a telemarketer and I got it, and I remember.
Oh, that's a good job to quit.
I hated that job. I hated it so much. I remember I was playing the game and I got dog meat, and I was like, dude, this game is so good. And like I was like, I don't want to go to work. I'm gonna stay up all night playing it, and I quit. 6 months later, I ended up 100% in the game. I did not stop playing that game for like 6 months straight. Something about
oh man, just the old school days, like when I really didn't. There's just something about that sense of wonder and discovery when you just don't know what the fuck is going on. Like, I remember renting Metal Gear Solid 3 from Blockbuster.
Oh my goodness.
Knowing nothing about the Metal Gear Solid franchise.
You probably left just as confused too, like, what the hell?
And by the time we had to bring back, I'm like, okay, I need to buy the fuck out of this game. Be fucking 13 years old. Metal Gear Solid 3 comes out, going blind, utterly blind. You don't know anything about the existence of 1 or 2. It's a prequel to what?
And that story's so convoluted too. Like, if you put the whole entire, I listened to a 6-hour timeline breakdown where they put every single game into a chronological order, and it is so insane to sit there and try to listen to them piece it together.
Yes, and you want to know something? Metal Gear Solid 3 is my favorite video game of all time.
That's awesome.
Number fucking 1. It's the greatest. It's a fucking masterpiece. It's the greatest video game ever made.
That's awesome. So, there's another awesome number 3 we're actually here to talk about today. Gryffen issue number 3, if I'm not mistaken. And this is one hell of a story too. I just love this. If I had to put a word to it, badass. I mean, Gryffen is such a badass, and I loved how issue 1 and 2 started off, and then you come in with issue 3, and you're like, nah, fuck that. Like, you have no idea what you even read. This whole entire story gets twisted onto your head, and it's just like your mind just melts. It was phenomenal.
I'm so glad that was your reaction and you liked it, because this was my first time really going into the story being like, there's going to be a twist. This story's going to hinge on a twist. And I was so nervous because I grew up a Lost fan, and I know how fans get when they don't like how a twist goes.
Yeah.
But I went into just with just knowing that there was a mystery at the heart of this book. That, like, you get this intro that, like, Lila Gryffen was the Reach's greatest captain. 6 months ago, she disappeared. When they came back, they waged a 1 NB war, a 1-ship crusade to bring down the empire they once served. What happened to make them renounce and reverse everything they believed and fought in? Like, what made them change? And I knew that was a mystery that had to be revealed. Like, I knew that was where there was a twist. Was, if nothing else, like, while I could see I could definitely do like a whole bunch more volumes of Gryffen, more crazy, violent, anti-fascist, anti-capitalist space adventures. I knew that was what this first 3-issue, again, they're 3 double-sized issues, so really almost like 6 issues.
Yeah.
Story arc had to answer. We need to answer what happened to Gryffen, and thus who is Gryffen.
I still have no idea. I mean, the first issue, she is so batshit crazy, it seems like. She's just off her rocker. I just love, oh my God, it's insane, balls to the wall. And like issue 2, you come in with, she comes in from the atmosphere and punches someone. A 1-punch death atmosphere punch. I've never seen that. It was the single greatest punch I've ever seen, I think, in a comic. Like,
oh, hell yeah!
It was
was definitely the goal. Fuck yeah!
It was brutal. It was brutal. I mean, like, how did you come up with this?
That is the best award in comics.
There actually is the Geeklies. So next year, you're going to be eligible for that. Just throwing it out there. So how did you come up with the idea of this? This story is so crazy. I don't think I've ever even read anything close to it.
So we originally kind of like conceived it, or like our production guys was like, let's get it out there, like initially digitally, like let's make it in like half-issue chunks. So like 12 issues. So it required like a real breakneck pacing, almost like Star Trek, where it's like I had to plan for like the commercial breaks almost. But it also made me just like think like, okay, I've got a lot of opportunities to do stuff with a little amount of pages, and it pushed me to like really try to come up with some like more experimental stuff where it's like, yeah, let's spend like 2/3 of a chapter on just this character getting shot out of space.
It was so brutal too. Oh.
And I don't even remember the original inspiration. I just knew it was just like just this combination of science fiction and violence. Just this idea of like, just this image of someone perched on like a space cannon ready to be shot out. I'm just like, fucking yeah.
And the way the
Like,
humor falls in this, I mean, there's parts where Gryffen like saves a group of people, and then like this pod, emergency rescue pod or whatever, falls and kills them and out pumps Admiral Hunter. Like, it's just, I just love all the little snippets in there. It's like the way the humor falls is phenomenal. The action in this thing is just freaking. She has an energy sword. It's so badass. Like,
that's also what it was that like this was me and Bruno's third time working together, and every book we got more and more confident with our action scenes. Like, again, we had like some action, like, but we were definitely like in Shaman, like, as we tried coming up with new set pieces, and we, you know, I was figuring out pacing and how to work these set pieces and script them. And then Heavenly Blues was this finely tuned heist machine that like all built up to this like epic like conclusion that Bruno just fucking knocked it out of the park. He destroyed the park. And so Gryffen were like, we got this. Like, we're on our action game. Let's fucking go all in. And also, what I had learned from working with Bruno on Shaman and Heavenly Blues is that Bruno really wanted to draw gore, like really intense violence. And Shaman, I was like, no, please, I still want this to be appropriate for someone aged like 14 or so, like 13 or so. And then like Heavenly Blues was like, okay, it's like a little bit, but no, again, just not quite the tone we're going for. And then we got to Gryffen, and that was the book where I'm like, Bruno,
do the thing,
unleash the gore. And what you get in Gryffen is just like, and I didn't mean to this, like, you know, like, it's just like, I realized I'd pent up the gore, and then it all came out. Like, when people get shot in the head in Gryffen, there isn't just like a head appears in like a hole appears in their forehead. They don't have heads anymore.
There's just eyeballs, floating eyeballs and brain matter.
Just eyeballs and brain matter. Like, when people get slashed, they get like all the way down the middle in half. Like,
I remember when I was reading this after reading because I want Immortals Phoenix Rising and then Gryffen. I remember being like, damn, like this is like two different like ballparks here.
Oh yeah.
I loved it. Like, it was awesome.
Again, I came up with Gryffen post fall of 2016 where I had some feelings and frustration and anger to work out. So seeing Bruno's pages come in, I'm like, yes, this is because. But that's what it was. It was Gryffen is meant to be queer wrath and cathartic anti-fascism.
And I also love too how, you know, there's just so much, it feels like symbolism in this. At one point in time, you have this person's taken hostage, and then her entire race is about to get exterminated, and no one wants to help her besides Gryffen. And it's like the person who's the most batshit crazy is the one that's going to be the one that saves your people. And I just kind of loved how that was like scripted. It was phenomenal.
Thank you. But yeah, no, that was a lot of fun. Just kind of having that, like, you know, kind of taking the air out of that traditional Star Wars resistance and being like, no, let's, like, they're a little presented a little too clean. Like, let's try something a little new, something maybe a little dirtier, and something also a little more batshit insane.
So, I mean, issue 1, issue 2, off the rockers, what can we expect in issue 3? And for everyone that is watching, right here is a link to the previews world. You can actually get this pre-ordered from your local comic book shop. So make sure you get that in and on your pull list as soon as possible. Right here is that link. So give us, you know, a little bit of what to expect in issue 3.
Issue 3, you will learn the truth of what happened to Gryffen, what made them turn against the Reach and become the insane, non-binary, like, fucking great at sex violence captain that the universe now fears. And so you will get answers and reveals, and you know how the rest of the crew feels about Gryffen after they learn the truth is definitely never going to be the same afterwards. Relationships will be tested. Relationships will be tested. Sunday on Fox.
I always do that too. 92.5 Kiss FM. Phil, I love Phil a ton as well.
Oh yes, that was very fun. That was partly also just being like, why are robots always ladies? I love a good robot lady. Don't get me wrong. This gal here loves your Cortanas and whatnot. But what if we made a robot dude?
And Phil, perfect name for it too.
I had a lot of fun coming up with like that classic make the acronym to spell out the word you want, like in advance. Yes, no, if I had originally there was more to Phil, but it kind of became just the sense of like I can only do so many in so many pages. Let's focus on these first 4 crew members, and then Phil can get fleshed out later on, because I mean, the two things, now with the benefit of hindsight, if I could do more Gryffen, what I'd love to do big arcs about is capitalism and the AI, which I think are ripe targets.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you foresee an issue 4 anytime in the future, or is it, as it stands, like you're kind of just with the issue 3?
It's not currently in the works, but hey, this has been a weird, crazy life I've lived, so I say never to anything. Hey, if it does real well and whatnot's like, damn, people fucking love this crazy sci-fi, like, badassery. Let's get some more of this shit, then hopefully you'll see a 4, so.
And if you guys want that to happen, make sure you hit that Previews World link up and get these pre-orders in as fast as humanly possible. So, and outside of Gryffen issue 1 and 3, you have another awesome title coming out in 2023. Can you give us a little bit about that as well?
Yes, so I am actually dipping my toes into the world of prose. I wrote a middle grade novel for Scholastic that is coming out October 17th called L. Campbell Wins Their Weekend.
That's so cool.
7th grader, non-binary 7th grader L. Campbell wants nothing more than to meet their icon television actor Nori Grenna, who was coming to their town for a one-day local signing. But when standing up for themselves and their identity lands them in Saturday detention, their friends hatch a hairball scheme to bust them out of school jail and trek across town in a journey worthy of Ferris Bueller.
So how does it feel to be able to have a book that is going to be shown to so many kids across the world? Scholastic, that's a big thing. I remember being a kid going to the Scholastic Book Fair with like $10, getting all kinds of crazy books, and they always have like the crazy little erasers and the posters. Like, that's such a cool thing.
It's wild. But you know what? Can I tell you what again, I felt like such a comic book writer in this. I think one of the craziest parts, the part that I'm like, oh my God, now it feels real, is when I got the cover art. I'm like, there they are. Those are the characters are in art. Now it's like the comics. I get it now. It's real.
So what's it like writing prose compared to a script? I mean, do you feel like...
Oh my God, so different.
Yeah? Do you feel like you're able to kind of let loose a little bit more?
I'll say this, like, editing in comics feels like open heart surgery, where like editing in prose feels like making a Jackson Pollock.
Okay, what's a Jackson? What's a Jackson Pollock?
Jackson Pollock, like the painting where it's just all the paint.
Okay. I'm not very well versed with paint. So you said that, I was like, okay, I have no idea what that is, but it sounds very complicated.
Yes, the art's like comics. It's like, okay, if I add this spell, do I have room in this page? Is that gonna fuck with the flow? Like, well, if I delete this page, well, hold on. Do I have reveals that are dependent on page turns? Wait, is that gonna fuck up double page spreads? Well, then I better figure out how to cut 2 pages from this. Like, it's a Jenga tower. Like, everything affects everything else. And then I get to, and I'm so used to that. And then I get to prose. I'm just like, oh, I can just fucking add paragraphs wherever the fuck I want it. It doesn't matter.
I'm gonna add 2 sentences here just for the shit of it.
Just for the shit of it. I can get rid of this. I can get rid of this, and it's not gonna fuck up with something 70 pages from now.
Mm-hmm.
This is amazing.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
But no, it was it was like learning to swim all over again. It was like all of my usual tools of the trade have failed me. I must be Batman and go through a new training montage and learn like all new skills. Like I really had to, but again, that was one of the reasons why I really wanted to do it, was just to take on that challenge of a new medium and seeing if as a writer I could do it. And so, it was a lot of fun, and I think it's hopefully going to be just a charming story that really speaks to something important that hopefully kids enjoy. And otherwise my attitude towards it is like Jack Sparrow being called the worst pirate. I'm like, the reviews could be like, this is the worst book I've ever read. I'd be like, so you admit I wrote a book.
You read it.
Yeah, like it's a book and I wrote it. And you admit that. I'm still feeling like the winner here.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome. Now, Ben, I know this is your first time on the show. We always end the podcast on a very strong note. I always love asking for a little bit of advice for anyone looking to become a writer, and then what you're consuming outside of creating. So for anyone looking to start their script for the first time, or even just start writing for the first time, what could they do to possibly just make that the best experience possible?
I would say, before anything else, write what you'll have fun. Like, write for fun. Like, don't try to go for a trend or what you think you should be writing. Especially when you're starting out, just being like, man, what would I have the time of my life writing?
Mm-hmm.
That's my North Star. I just follow my habit. Like, that's how I approach every project more than anything else, is being like, will it be fun to work on this? Will this be and you know what? If you'll think you're going to have fun working on it, then go for it and have the time of your life.
Because if it's fun, then the days that it's not so fun, it will be able to carry you through. You'll be motivated to keep chipping away at it, keep pushing at it. Awesome advice there, Ben.
Yep.
So outside of creating, what are you consuming? Video games, books, comics, TV shows.
So love a lot of TV. I'm definitely a big TV watcher. I just finished up Beef. And then, just coming off the 1-2 punch of the final season of Secession and Yellow Jackets season 2. So Beef, Secession, Yellow Jackets, fucking Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was amazing.
So depressing. Oh my God.
But heartfelt. They earned those emotions.
It was good. Yeah.
Video games, I'm fucking useless. I'm just playing Pokemon over and over again.
Which one though? Scarlet?
So I did Scarlet, now I'm doing Violet.
Okay.
I did a team in Scarlet. I'm like, I'm just going to fuck around and make a team. And I'll catch some Pokemon, and the ones that work, I'll go on the team, and it'll be fine. And now Violet, I'm like, I have planned this to the exact molecule, and you are all trained perfectly. You are now my pre-planned team.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I love that. What's your team? Let's hear it.
So right now I've been doing, I got Florigato, Frogadier, Tinkatuff, Shroodle, which is shiny. Yeah, got me a shiny Shroodle. A Charcadet, which I'm going to evolve into, which I'm going to trade over to Scarlet to get Armor Rouge, and then a Cyclozar, which I'm going to eventually replace with Miraidon, because fuck you, I'm going to use a legendary. It's a cool sandwich lizard that looks like Toothless.
It is a very, very pretty design. My kids love it. I let them play, I beat it, and then I let them play, and they love just how I think the open world aspect is such a game changer. I'm happy we explored that in Let's Go, and then we've seen that happen, with the later games to come. So phenomenal titles.
I see people. I gotta say, I have no patience for the Pokemon fandom, though. I see the complaints. Oh my God! It's like, how could Game Freak do this? How could the Pokemon Company release a glitchy, buggy game with terrible graphics? I'm like, motherfucker! I've been here since Red and Blue. How could they release a glitchy game with terrible graphics? They're just going back to their roots, baby.
It's like I was born in the dark. I was molded by this. I remember getting Pokemon on Pokemon Yellow.
I was there when the old Pokedex was written.
Mm-hmm. I remember when I played Pokemon, you only had a couple palettes, all right? They were either red or blue, and if you played yellow, you had a couple more, and you only had 151, all right? So
I looked for Mew under the truck, and
hey,
it wasn't
the glitch.
there.
Well, you had to, you go up Nugget Bridge. I still remember it, I'm pretty sure. You go up Nugget Bridge, and then you go to the left.
Oh, they found that years later.
Yeah, there's the bug catcher, and you once he sees you, you teleport. Yeah, that stuff. I can't believe I still remember that.
This is still the era of like my uncle works for Nintendo and he says Yoshi's gonna be in the next Pokemon game.
Do you remember?
And yes, my school absolutely had a my uncle works at Nintendo kid.
So there was something I figured out that I don't think a lot of people realize, but in the beginning of Red or Blue, you could hit any of the directions on the D-pad and it would change the color of the game. So even if you were playing Red, you can make the game blue or purple. And dude, it was so cool. I could not believe it. So mind blown. We have my Aunt Connie joining us last in the chat right now. Great advice. Thank you for swinging by, Connie. This is the end of the interview, but you could always hit that replay and check out from the beginning. Such an awesome chat. Ben, thank you so much for swinging by. I gotta get you on for the next time. This was an awesome chat.
Have me on anytime. This has been so much fun. Thank you so much for having me. I've had a blast.
Absolutely. And everyone watching, right there are those links. Be sure to get your pre-orders in while you still have time. I hope you all have a fantastic day. But most importantly, guys, keep it geekly.